podcast where three brothers talk about what's happening in American and European soccer. My name is Dave Knittel, the eldest Knittel brother, and today I am joined by Bill Salvatore. He is from the Philadelphia Parks and Recreation Department and is Unity Cup director. Bill, welcome to Bros Talking Soccer. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So the Unity Cup is an incredible tournament. I'm so excited to have you on and talk about it. It's been growing, every year. Can you explain for people what is the Unity Cup?
Yeah, so the Unity Cup is a World Cup style soccer tournament that was created, kind of through the idea of Mayor Jim Kenney when he got elected in 2016 to use soccer to unite immigrant communities in the city with each other and with their city government.
Yeah, and it's really cool. And I believe the tournament has already kicked off this year. And how's it going so far?
It's great. We kicked off on Friday night. We had 48 of the 52 teams present for opening ceremony. They all paraded onto the field, and then we had a kickoff match. We had food trucks out and some vendors and face painting and all kinds of fun activities. So it was a really good night.
Cool. And where was that? I know you said it was in the city, but where exactly?
Yeah, that was at the Northeast High School Super Site.
Got it.
It was supposed to be at one of our sites called Ramp Playground up in the Northeast, but when the storm blew through last week, it actually lifted a bleacher and tore up the turf. So we had to do some emergency moving around.
And so I got to imagine that happens, there's all kinds of emergency things happening. How do you, so maybe can you explain your role within the organization and kind of, what you're responsible for with the Unity Cup?
Yeah, so it's interesting, before I took kind of this position, thanks to the mayor, I was running a rec center. So just like, you would go into your local rec center and you play basketball or flag football or whatever, that was my job. And for the better part of, 15 years, I was implementing programming at a rec center. So just like doing schedules and ordering shirts for teams and, scheduling officials and all that. So really, my role hasn't changed that much, but instead of doing like a 16 basketball league, I'm doing a 52 team soccer tournament. So I'm responsible for all the logistics of it. And, like our commissioner, Catherine at Level, likes to say, I can run a soccer tournament with my eyes closed. Like that's the easy part. What I didn't realize taking the position was, how much community engagement was involved, because you're dealing with, in year one, we're dealing with 32 different communities, and now we're dealing with 52 different communities, and folks speak different languages, and they have different ways of life and different cultures. So it's really interesting, that part of the job.
Absolutely. And so for me, I'm someone who loves the behind the scenes work. I love talking about logistics and things like that. And so this might be overly nerdy, but I really want to dig into some of that stuff. So this tournament happens, it kicks off usually in August or sometime in the summertime. How far in advance do you need to start planning for this summer's tournament?
So I won't say it's immediately after the last tournament finishes, but it's pretty close. So, we'll finish this year on October 12th, and, within 2 weeks, we'll do a wrap-up party and a debrief, and then I'll kind of veg out a little bit over the holidays, and then come January, we'll start planning community engagement nights, which usually start in February. So it's really, a 9-month endeavor.
Got it. And those community engagement nights, are you going into the same communities as before? Are you going into even more communities? How does it go from, all right, January, you're going to be running the Unity Cup, but do you know at that point how many teams are going to be involved, or is it a little bit more open-ended? How does the timeline work before you kind of settle down into your structure and then really kind of start digging into things?
Yeah, it's pretty open-ended. So what I'll do is I'll schedule anywhere between 5 and 8 engagement nights, and we'll use different sites around the city in our system, but we'll tackle different neighborhoods. So for instance, James Finnegan Playground in Southwest Philly, that's very high population of West African immigrants, whereas you go into South Philly and you have a high population of Mexican immigrants. So we try and tackle every neighborhood, so folks are close to home, and anyone's welcome to come out and see what goes on. So the returning teams will come out, and then new teams will come out as well.
Got it. And what are those engagement nights? Are you playing soccer? Is it something else? What's involved in one of those engagement nights?
Oh, so that's really where we explain how the tournament works, some ideas around changes, a proposed timeline. One of our partners, the Office of Immigrant Affairs, will come out and they'll talk about anything that's going on, as far as government goes that they need to talk about. For instance, this year they came out and they talked about, there was a ballot question about them being a permanent department in the city, which is really important. And there was also a discussion around this municipal ID program that we're working on in the city. So everyone can have identification. So just, it's really about community engagement. It's like, okay, we're playing soccer and soccer's great and soccer's why we're all together, but there's more to it than that. We really want to make sure that every community in the city has every opportunity that everybody else has.
Got it. Okay. All right. So it's broader than just soccer. And so that's really interesting. Steering back to kind of this tournament, you touched on there's 52 teams participating. How many players does that equate to? Do you have any idea?
So there's 22 players per roster. So it ends up being like 1,200 players and around 120 coaches.
Okay. Wow. And then behind the scenes, how many people are involved in, whether it's your department, volunteers and things like that? Any idea on scope of people involved in that?
Yeah, so we do reach out to our staff for assistance to be like site managers. So, they check in players and, make sure the IDs are set and make sure the corner flags are up and make sure there's balls and all that. But then on our website, unitycup.phila.gov, there's opportunity for anyone to volunteer. So if you want to volunteer for a 4-hour shift, you can come out. We'll give you a volunteer shirt. You can work the sidelines and keep soccer balls in play, or you can engage the crowd with palm cards or collecting email addresses, help with a snack stand, all that stuff.
Got it. And we have that website linked in the video description if you're watching on YouTube, or it's going to be in the podcast show notes if you're listening to the podcast. What's a normal sort of crowd, or what's a day like for a Unity Cup match? You touched on you guys run a snack bar. How many ballpark fans do you usually get out? Does it really vary depending on who's playing? How does all that work? Bill, do I still have you? Oh, we may have lost Bill. Yep, and he's gone. All right, apologies there for that. We were having some connection issues earlier. Hopefully we get him back very quickly. I see we do have one viewer here. Hello, welcome viewer. And so hopefully we'll get Bill back. I think he has a link. And so hopefully we'll get him right back in here and we can continue this discussion. So in the meantime, if you want to check out the Unity Cup website, or if you have any questions for Bill or for myself, definitely leave them in the comment section, and I would love to get back to you on them. And so I'm just going to stall for time here as best I can, and then hopefully Bill will rejoin relatively quickly. I'm checking my email just to double check. Okay, and I think we have him back. Okay, I think we got him back. Bill, can you hear me? Oh, maybe not.
I can hear you.
There we go. All right, there we are. All right, cool. Apologies for that. All right, so my question was, and now I'm forgetting. So you touched on what it's like on a normal, or you said volunteers can help with like snack bars. And so I'm not sure if you heard my question, but I just asked, what's a normal sort of match day experience with the Unity Cup? Do you have multiple games going on at one site? About how many fans come out? What's a normal Unity Cup kind of match day?
Yeah, so it's crazy, to be honest with you. So, in our first couple of years, we were doing the group stage over the course of 3 weekends. Last year, because we had 52 teams, so we were playing 26 games in 3 days. And you can imagine with different volunteers, there were some really long days, a lot of 10 shifts. At multiple, we gave every team a bye week. So, we have about 20 games per weekend, which is still a lot, but it's a little bit more manageable. As far as the crowd goes, it varies game to game. We had over 700 folks there Friday night for kickoff night, which is incredible. And to give you a little idea, we had over 2,500 total fans this past weekend at 19 games. And last year in one, we had 200 fans at 26, so a 10-step road. But it really depends on community they are, and depending on if a team is playing far away from home.
Got it. Okay. And so do all the matches take place within the city limits beyond the final, I believe, is played at Talon? Is that correct?
Yeah, in the city other than the championship.
Okay. Got it. And then, so this is, I believe, the fourth year of the tournament. How has the tournament evolved since its first year, both in just scope of people and, communities that it's impacting? How has the tournament changed since year one to now year four?
Yeah, I mean, number one, the vibe has completely changed. Year one, it was kind of like, what is going on here? What are these people doing? Is this going to take off? And, as it's progressed and more people have become interested, it just from now in 60 see they come out to the fact that in their own jersey, social media. The most for me is the vibe of it. It started kind of grassroots, really small, like it's pretty. You go wide as well because the city is interested in picking.
Bill, I'm really sorry here. I'm not sure if you can hear me. We missed a lot of that. I'm going to try to summarize what I picked up from what you were saying there. But more or less, I think what Bill was talking about is the vibe of the tournament has really changed from the early years from the early parts where it wasn't sure what it was going to be. And it really has grown from a grassroots level to really expanding onto social media, getting onto websites, and it's really just sort of evolved from that. And so, Bill, I'm not sure how much you heard of me summarizing what you said, but we lost you a lot in what you were saying, so I did my best there. But it sounded like there are jerseys and things like that, and the tournament has really just grown on to a big scale.
No, you pretty much summarized it just like I said.
Okay, awesome. That is good. And so we touched on how people can get involved in the Unity Cup. We have the website there, and so you touched a little bit on. So I guess I think you touched on this, but maybe I'm going to ask it again because we lost you a little bit. So how many people are involved behind the scenes? I think you said, you have your team and then you have volunteers and people are working everything from the snack bar. And now I'm just remembering it. So actually that question does not matter anymore, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you said that you were involved in kind of rec sports before this, but what's your history with kind of the sport of soccer?
Very limited. Very, very limited. I ran a center that had 19 youth teams there, but I wasn't heavily involved in it. It was run by a volunteer organization. I did have a young lady come to me that was really interested in getting some adult soccer going. So we actually managed to get an 8-team co-ed league at my site for a few years. But I was really a basketball guy at my site. I ran killer basketball leagues. And my extent of soccer would be watching the World Cup when it came around and playing FIFA on the PlayStation. That was it.
Okay. And then, so has your perspective or I guess thoughts on the sport of soccer, are you taking more of an interest now that you're running this tournament, or is it still kind of similar as it was before?
No, I mean, it's interesting. I was out on Tuesday night and I ran into a bunch of guys who used to, they still play hockey, but I used to program the hockey league they're in, and they were doing a fantasy draft for Premier League. and we had a nice conversation about it. And before the Unity Cup, I could care less about Premier League, to be honest. But now it's like, it's something I'm interested in. I'm interested in international players and international soccer.
Very cool. Very cool. And steering combo back to Unity Cup, we touched on the website earlier, but what I'm impressed with, the Unity website isn't just, hey, this is the information about the tournament. You also have almost like media coverage. You have people writing up match previews. I think you might have had some match reviews and things like that. I think it adds a decent amount of legitimacy to this young tournament. Was that something that you guys set out to do? Was that something that people just took an interest in the tournament, so you felt like you had to provide more coverage? Can you talk about just the media coverage, both that you guys provide, and I think ABC talks about the tournament as well. So you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I hate to keep bringing it back to like my days in the field, but it really is the truth. When we were running basketball and hockey leagues, we would do game previews and, first team all basketball, first team all hockey. We just have fun with it and put it on our website because it would generate discussion. You go to the bar and people will be complaining like, oh, how did you give me second team and not first team? And when I took on the project, I was like, ESPN does it, Fox does it. Why can't the Unity Cup, do previews and do winners and losers of the week? Like, I can write that in 15 minutes. It's not like, it's a heavy lift for me. So, and it adds some fun to it, so you go on, you say, oh my goodness, he thinks that the hothead teams aren't going to win this year. And, I just think it adds an extra layer to the discussion and to the engagement part of it.
Absolutely.
And as far as 6ABC goes and KYW, they're both great sponsors. We get some really nice Philly Proud segments on 6ABC, and Cherry Gregg from KYW does some really nice vignettes. What's really neat is that KYW changes their format for the championship, and they'll go to the broadcast of the championship. Greg Orlandini will do the championship broadcast, and it won't be all news all the time for that 90 minutes.
That's very cool. Have they been partners throughout the tournament, or has that relationship evolved too?
They both came on last year. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So it's been,
and 6ABC. I'm sorry. 6ABC will be live streaming the championship as well. So it's even better.
That's great. And so I live in California normally. Do you know if I could get it, out there as well, or is it only going to be on the local kind of Philly website?
Oh, no, it'll be global. I mean, there's Liberia sent a link back to the country for them to watch it last year. So.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I'll definitely have to tune in for that. And when is the final? It's in October, correct?
Yeah, October 12th at Talent Energy. Yep. Probably about a 5:00 kickoff.
Okay. And then what is the timeline? So group stage has kicked off in early August. When does the group stage end? When does knockout start? Can you talk us through the timeline of when everything is going to happen in between now and August or October?
Yeah. So we'll be in group stage till pretty much till Labor Day. We'll take Labor Day weekend off. And then we'll come back and we'll go right to the knockout rounds. So we'll do a play-in round because we have 52 teams. Then we'll go round to 16, quarters, semis. We'll take a week off. That weekend of October 5th we'll be off. And then the championship is October 12th.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Any teams, I don't know, any teams that you can share that are, I don't know, maybe some of the favorites for people that want to look out for? Any underdogs? I don't know if the teams vary a ton year to year or if they're powerhouses kind of every year. Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so the tournament's been pretty West African heavy the first 3 years. Liberia won 2 out of 3. Ivory Coast won 1. And Sierra Leone was in the championship 1 year. So they're the heaviest of hitters. The U.S. team is really interesting. They have a lot of old Division I players on it, as well as I think maybe an ex-professional. And same thing with Team Ireland. They're a perennial, powerhouse. Both USA and Ireland just can't get over the hump of Liberia for some reason.
Okay, so that's someone to look out for. And so I'm gonna do this, and so it sounds like we have a much better connection. So I'm gonna ask you to the question that I asked before, and so hopefully we can get here your answer rather than me trying to describe it. But going back to how the tournament has evolved, I apologize for making you repeat yourself, but can we hear in your words again how the tournament evolved from year one to now year four, please?
Yeah, so I mean, when you talk about how it's evolved, I think the best way I can describe it is that the vibe has changed. So, year one, you have no idea what to expect, right? You're building a website from scratch. You're building your social media following from scratch. It's like, oh, follow PHL Unity Cup. Well, what the heck is that? And the only people really following are the participants. And year two, you get to 48 teams, so you obviously you're going to grow your social media following. But then last year, when 6ABC and KYW came in, you start getting some legitimate media coverage, and then people are starting to pay attention, right? Um, you know, and then thanks to this kind of coincidence with us bidding for the World Cup in 2026 and some other initiatives around the city, it's really, really been pushed to the forefront as far as how we're growing soccer in the city of Philadelphia. And I think that's really, the true measure of how it's grown, that we're using the Uni Cup as leverage now, on the world stage, not just, for local immigrant communities.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic tournament, really cool. Looking into the future a little bit, I mean, where do you see the tournament going? Will you continue to expand? So you went from I think 48 the first year, now you're up to 52. Do you think you'll expand? Do you think, I don't know, you'll add another one? What do you see the future of this tournament as?
Well, a couple things. The most pressing thing for me right now is to get a women's division for next year, even if it's 8 countries represented. I would really like to make that happen for our 5th year anniversary. That would be huge. And then when it comes to expanding the tournament, it really comes down to, sponsorships and our resources. Can we go to 60 teams? Can we go to 64 teams? There's a lot more communities that want to be involved, and it's a matter of, can I make it happen in such a way that we still get everybody uniforms and cover the officials' fees and all that. So those are the two big things. Look, I always talk about the spirit of the tournament, and as long as we're connecting people to each other and to the government, it's mission accomplished. So if we grow in that aspect, if more immigrant kids are playing soccer in our programs, if more communities are permitting our fields, then that's really the win for me.
Absolutely. With the women's tournament, would it run during the same time? Would you try to do it at a different time? How do you envision that working?
We would run it concurrently. It would depend on how many teams, depending on when we'd start. So obviously, if it was like an 8-team tournament, we can start a little bit later because we won't need as much time for knockouts. If somehow we end up with 32, I'd figure it out. Maybe start their group stage in September, do something like that.
Got it. Okay. And so switching gears from the Unity Cup a little bit, I think you were also involved in this initiative. And if you aren't, no big deal. But EPYSA, so the Eastern Pennsylvania Youth Soccer Association and the Union, just announced with the city of Philadelphia that they're going to be building 2 fields and 15 mini pitches throughout the city of Philadelphia. Can you tell us a little bit about that if you were involved in that, and what people can be looking for with that?
I was actually very involved. So one of the things we realized really early on back in 2016 was that we didn't have a lot of sites to play these games. We have a lot of field space, but we don't have a lot of quality sites. So, what it's like, no matter what sport you play, if you run through a divot in the field, you're going to turn an ankle, right? I mean, It's just the way it goes. And unfortunately, over the course of time, a lot of our fields are in that condition. So, thanks to the mayor's idea of the rebuild initiative, we're going to address some of that, but the city can't do it by itself. So EPYSA and the union came in as really good partners to help us get some sites where kids can play soccer and adults. So the mini pitch initiative was created. We're going to convert 15 tennis courts / hockey rinks into like futsal courts, and then we're going to build 2 premier fields. One of which is going to be down in Southwest Philly, where our 3 our three champions of the Unity Cup come from, and they don't have a quality field to practice on. So it's a really big win for soccer in the city for sure.
Got it. And those 15 mini pitches, have all of the sites already been selected, or how does the selection process go on where the pitches are going to be built?
So the union kind of wanted us to go into a Mexican community to start. So that's why Capitola and South Philly got picked. The other sites haven't been identified yet. So I actually have a meeting next Friday to discuss kind of our criteria for selecting sites.
Got it. Okay. So that's really cool. And was there a timeline on when, all of those pitches will be built, or is it just, as soon as possible when you can get the clearance, you want to get them built, as soon as possible?
Yeah, as soon as possible. I mean, there's logistics you got to go through with law and moving the money around and all that stuff that I don't get to be privy to, which is probably a good thing, because I like to get things done pretty quickly, and I would be like a pain in the ass when it came to that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine of what that's like, because I'm similar to yourself, where we have this, let's get it done. So I'm sure that can be frustrating at times. Is there anything that I didn't ask either about the Unity Cup or any other projects you're involved in from a soccer perspective before I ask my final question? Anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I feel pretty good. I mean, I would encourage anybody who's listening or who will listen or watch to, follow us on social media and just check out what we have going on. Even if you're not a soccer fan, just come out and check it out. The one thing that I always say is that when I talk about it, I never do it justice. I never do. I'm probably too close to it. But if you would just come out and just see the passion for, basically community soccer matches, you'd be like, this is the greatest thing ever. How come I don't come every week?
Absolutely. And so again, we have the website as well as social media linked. We have Facebook and Twitter linked in the video description and podcast show notes. So if you're based in the city of Philadelphia, definitely check them out. Go attend a match in person. And if you're somewhere else around the world, I know we have a lot of UK listeners, follow it online, because it's a really cool, interesting tournament. And you can do all of that from both the website as well as their social media. So Bill, I like to ask all of my guests that come on. We like to leave it on a positive note here. You can take it any direction you want. If you want it to be Unity Cup based or something else, feel free to take it any direction you want. But what's the thing you're most excited about happening in your soccer world?
Man, I'm super excited for the mini pitches and the premier fields. I got to tell you, and try a little emotional when it comes to this, but 4 years ago, I would have never imagined the friendships that I would have made through this. And I have a number of friends now from West African countries that I didn't even know existed on the planet before I met them, and for them and for their kids to have somewhere to play that's safe and to really, showcase their skills. That's what I'm most excited for.
And that is fantastic to hear. I'm excited to continue to follow the Unity Cup. I'm excited for all the developments that are happening in the city of Philadelphia, the city that I'm from and holds a special place in my heart. So, Bill, thank you so much for being here and talking with me today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you have the opportunity to come out on the 12th, I would love for you to do another podcast from the championship.
Okay, yeah, I will. I'm trying to think. I might be back. Be back in the area. My brother and I are headed over to Europe right around that time. So I'll connect with you if not. But either way, maybe we can do a follow-up maybe after that when I get back from Europe. But yeah, that would be fantastic. And I would love to do an update on how everything went and a look to the future. So yeah, that sounds like a fantastic plan.
Okay, great.
All right, cool. So thank you again, listeners, viewers. Thank you for being here. I hope everybody has a great day. Christian, Matt, and I will be back with a podcast on Sunday. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Say, everybody.
Take care.